In the quiet heart of Oklahoma City, the world outside moved at its usual pace, but inside one modest home, life was unfolding in a tapestry of small, beautiful moments. It was March 29, 2013, a Friday that began like so many others, with the promise of ordinary joys. The 5 children, each a bright spark in their own way, were gathered together, their laughter echoing through the halls as sunlight spilled across the floorboards. There was Carla, the oldest at 12, always looking out for her younger siblings. She moved with a quiet confidence, her eyes scanning the room to make sure everyone was safe and happy, her hands quick to help with a shoelace or a tangled doll's hair. Then came Louis, 9 years old, with a mind full of curiosity and a heart full of adventure. He was always the first to suggest a new game or invent a wild story, his imagination as boundless as the sky outside their window. Belle, at 8, was the artist of the family, her laughter like a melody that filled every room. She could turn a blank page into a world of color, her fingers always smudged with crayon and her eyes sparkling with ideas. Little Martha, only 5, followed her older siblings with wide, adoring eyes. She clung to her favorite stuffed animal, her tiny feet padding softly behind the others, eager to be included in every game and secret. And finally there was Christina, the baby of the family at 4, whose sweet smile could melt anyone's heart. She was the shadow that followed the others, her giggles a constant joyful soundtrack to the day. They were more than just siblings, they were a team, a small universe of their own creation, orbiting around each other in a dance of love and friendship. Their games were epic adventures, their arguments brief and easily forgotten. That afternoon their home was a symphony of youthful energy. Music played softly in the background, a gentle rhythm to their activities, blending with the sounds of laughter and playful shouts. Carla and Louis were deep in concentration, their faces serious as they moved pieces across a board game, a friendly competition unfolding between them. Each move was met with anticipation, the stakes high in their imaginary world. Belle was nearby, a box of crayons spread out before her on the floor, her small hands working diligently to bring a world of color to a piece of paper. She hummed to herself, lost in the magic of creation. Martha and Christina were playing with their dolls, creating their own little stories, and whispering secrets to their plastic companions. Their world was one of make-believe, where every doll had a name and every game a happy ending. It was a perfectly ordinary day, the kind of day you wish you could bottle up and save forever. A perfect snapshot of childhood happiness and sibling harmony. The walls seemed to hold the echoes of their laughter, the floorboards worn smooth by years of play. The air was filled with the comfortable sounds of a family at ease. The gentle click of game pieces, the soft scratch of a crayon on paper, the hushed giggles of the youngest girls, and the murmur of the radio created a tapestry of domestic peace. Even the clatter of dishes in the kitchen was a familiar, comforting background. They were safe in their sanctuary, shielded from the outside world. Outside, the day was just a day, but inside it was everything. A world built on love, laughter, and the small rituals that made them a family. It was the warmth of being together, the unspoken understanding that flowed between them, and the pure, uncomplicated bliss of being children. In those moments, nothing else mattered. No one could have imagined that these precious, ordinary moments were the last of their kind, that the very air they breathed would soon turn against them. The clock ticked on, indifferent to the fate that waited just beyond the horizon. For them, time was measured not in hours and minutes, but in shared laughter and playful arguments. Each corner of their home held a memory, each object a story, a favorite toy, a well-worn book, a drawing taped to the fridge. The worn-out board game had seen countless battles, and the dolls had been on 1,000 imaginary journeys. The refrigerator was a gallery of their artwork, each piece a testament to their growing dreams. It was a space built not just of walls and a roof, but of shared dreams and endless love. This was their kingdom, and they were its happy rulers, their laughter the anthem of their reign. But kingdoms can fall, and even the strongest walls cannot always protect the treasures within. The world outside was changing, though no one inside could sense the coming storm. The day, which had started with so much light and laughter, was unknowingly inching toward a darkness that no one could have foreseen or prepared for. In those final hours of innocence, the family's love shone brightest, unaware that everything was about to change forever. Carla, at 12, was on the cusp of her teenage years, but her heart was firmly planted in her role as the protective older sister. She was the one who always woke up first on Saturday mornings, quietly tiptoeing through the hallway to make sure her younger siblings could sleep in a little longer. Her gentle authority was felt in every corner of the house. When a storm rattled the windows, Carla would gather her siblings close, telling them stories until the thunder faded. Her siblings respected her, not out of fear, but out of love and admiration. She had a knack for solving any argument, whether it was over who got the last cookie or whose turn it was to pick the movie. Carla could find any lost toy, and her hugs were legendary, wrapping her siblings in warmth and reassurance. She was the peacemaker, the finder of missing puzzle pieces, and the best at reading bedtime stories, her voice soft and steady as the house settled for the night. On that day, she was the patient teacher, explaining the rules of the board game to Louis, who was always eager to learn, but sometimes too impatient to listen. She never lost her patience, even when Louis tried to make up his own rules, and she always made sure everyone felt included. Carla watched over her younger sisters with a quiet, steady gaze, her presence a comforting blanket for the entire family. She was the one who remembered everyone's favorite snacks, and made sure there was always enough to share. Carla was the anchor, the calm center around which her lively siblings revolved. Her love for them was as vast and deep as the Oklahoma sky, and her laughter could fill the house with light. Louis, with his bright 9-year-old mind, was a whirlwind of questions and energy. He was always the first to suggest a new game or adventure, his curiosity leading the way. He saw the world as a giant puzzle waiting to be solved. At dinner, he would pepper his parents with questions about how the toaster worked or why the sky changed colors at sunset. He loved taking things apart just to see how they worked, and his pockets were always full of interesting rocks, shiny bottle caps, and other small treasures. He would proudly show off his finds, sharing stories about where he discovered each one. While playing the game with Carla, his mind was already jumping ahead, thinking 3 moves in advance. Sometimes, he'd get so excited about his strategy that he'd accidentally give away his plans, making everyone laugh. He had a competitive spirit but a kind heart, and he would often let his younger sisters win just to see them smile. He loved the way their faces lit up with pride. Louis was the explorer, the scientist, the little boy who dreamed of big adventures and was always ready for the next discovery. His spirit was a bright flame of endless possibility, and he inspired his siblings to look at the world with wonder. 8-year-old Belle was the dreamer. She could spend hours gazing out the window, imagining faraway lands and magical creatures. She lived in a world painted with the vibrant colors of her imagination. Her drawings covered the refrigerator, each one telling a story only she could see. While her older siblings were locked in their game, she was lost in her own creative universe, humming softly as she sketched. Her crayons were magic wands, transforming blank paper into enchanted forests and whimsical creatures. She would often gift her artwork to her family, each drawing a piece of her heart. Belle was a quiet observer, noticing the little details that others missed, the way the sunlight streamed through the window, the pattern on a butterfly's wings, the melody in a bird's song. She would share these discoveries with her siblings, making the ordinary seem magical. Her art was her voice, a way to share the beautiful, magical world that she saw in her mind. The family would gather around to admire her latest masterpiece, each one a window into her dreams. She was the soul of the family, her gentle nature a soothing balm to everyone around her. When someone was sad, Belle was always the first to offer a comforting word or a soft hug. The youngest two, Martha and Christina, were an inseparable pair. Their laughter echoed through the house as they invented new games and whispered secrets only they could understand. At 5, Martha was just beginning to explore her independence, but she never strayed far from her little sister's side. She took her role as big sister seriously, always looking out for Christina. She was the storyteller, weaving intricate tales for their dolls, giving them voices and personalities. Her stories would make Christina giggle and gasp, completely captivated. 4-year-old Christina was her devoted audience, her eyes wide with wonder as she listened to Martha's imaginative narratives. She would clap with delight at the end of each story, begging for just one more. They were a world unto themselves, a duo of giggles and whispers, building blanket forts and dreaming up adventures that lasted all afternoon. They represented the pure innocence of early childhood, a time of make-believe and unconditional trust. Sometimes their older siblings would join in, and the house would ring with laughter and playful shouts. Together, these 5 children were not just siblings, they were a complete story, each one a vital chapter, their lives interwoven in a beautiful, intricate pattern. Their home was filled with laughter, love, and the kind of memories that linger in the heart forever. A true heartbeat of family. As the children played, laughter echoing through the rooms and the clatter of board game pieces filling the air, an invisible threat was silently growing within the walls and floors of their home, hidden from every watchful eye. The source was deceptively ordinary. Propane tanks, a staple in many households, stored away for convenience. 8 of these metal cylinders were kept inside, intended for grilling, heating, or emergencies, but each one carried a potential for disaster if mishandled. Propane, is a powerful and useful fuel, but it is also highly flammable and demands strict safety precautions. As a heavy gas, propane doesn't rise and escape. Instead, it clings to the lowest points, seeping into unseen corners and crevices. It pools on the floor, forming an invisible silent puddle, an ever-present risk, waiting for the smallest spark to ignite it. On this day, the seals on 3 of the 8 tanks had failed, releasing a slow, steady leak that crept unnoticed through the house. The gas slithered silently across the floor, a colorless, odorless predator, impossible to see and easy to ignore. While propane is usually treated with a chemical to give it a distinct, rotten egg smell, a slow leak can blend into the background, especially in a home filled with the comforting sense of daily life. The faint aroma of popcorn from an earlier snack, the musty scent of old board game boxes, the waxy smell of crayons from Belle's art project, all of these familiar odors could easily mask the subtle warning of leaking gas, making the danger even harder to detect. The children, lost in their own worlds of games and imagination, had no reason to suspect that the very air they breathed was becoming a volatile, explosive mixture. The catalyst for the tragedy was something equally unremarkable, a popcorn machine, left plugged in after use. It had been used earlier, and then left connected to the wall outlet, a common oversight in many busy households. Like many small appliances, it had an internal heating element that would cycle on and off, even when not in active use. It was a small, seemingly harmless device, the kind that brings families together for movie nights and shared memories. But in this specific terrible circumstance, it became a ticking time bomb, its presence unnoticed and its danger underestimated. The machine sat close to the floor, right where the heavy propane gas was accumulating, making it the perfect ignition source. It was the final fatal piece of a puzzle, one that was coming together in silence with no warning for those inside. Each element of the impending disaster was innocent on its own, but together they formed a deadly combination. The propane tanks were just for fuel, stored with the best intentions. The popcorn machine was just for making snacks, a symbol of comfort and family time. The children were just playing, blissfully unaware of the danger gathering at their feet. But when combined in this specific, tragic sequence, they created a formula for heartbreak. The slow, silent leak, the pooling of the invisible gas, and the presence of an electrical device all converged in a perfect storm of risk. The family, wrapped in the comfort of routine, had no idea that a single spark could turn their sanctuary into a nightmare. The house, which had been a haven of warmth and love just moments before, was unknowingly on the edge of catastrophe, a place where unseen dangers had gathered, waiting for the smallest mistake to unleash unimaginable horror. The peaceful afternoon was shattered in an instant. There was no warning, no final moment of realization. 1 second, the house was filled with the soft sounds of children playing. The next, it was consumed by a deafening roar. The heating element inside the popcorn machine clicked on, generating a tiny, insignificant spark. But in the propane-saturated air, that tiny spark was like a match thrown into a barrel of gasoline. It ignited the accumulated gas, triggering a massive and violent explosion. The force of the blast was immense, a brutal shockwave that tore through the home with unimaginable power, turning a place of safety into a scene of utter destruction. The house literally came apart at the seams. The walls blew outward, the roof was lifted from its foundation, and windows shattered, sending shards of glass flying like deadly projectiles. Debris, pieces of wood, insulation, furniture, and the children's toys, was hurled hundreds of feet into the air, raining down on the surrounding yard and street. The explosion was so powerful that it shook neighboring houses, rattling windows and startling residents who had been going about their quiet day. For a moment there was just the sound of the blast, followed by a terrifying silence as the dust and smoke began to billow upwards into the sky. Inside, where just moments before Carla and Louis had been contemplating their next move in a board game, there was now only chaos and fire. The blast wave would have been disorienting, a physical blow that threw the children across the room. Ears rang with a thunderous boom, and the world seemed to tilt and spin as the floor buckled beneath them. The very floor beneath them had likely been ripped apart, and the air was instantly filled with choking dust and the acrid smell of burnt materials. The heat was immediate and overwhelming, searing exposed skin and making it nearly impossible to breathe. The familiar surroundings of their living room, the comfortable sofa, the colorful rug, the pictures on the wall, were gone, replaced by a twisted, burning wreckage. Flames licked at the walls, devouring everything in their path. The explosion had not just destroyed a building, it had annihilated a home, and the innocent world the children had known. The immediate aftermath was a vision of pure devastation. The air was thick with the screams of pain and confusion, the crackle of fire, and the distant shouts of neighbors rushing to help. What was once a house was now a skeletal frame, engulfed in roaring flames that fed on the wreckage. The music had stopped. The laughter was gone. The only sounds were the roar of the fire and the desperate cries for help. The quiet hum of a peaceful afternoon had been replaced by the roar of the fire and the crackling of burning wood. The heat pressed in from all sides, and the smoke stung eyes and throats, making every breath a struggle. Carla, Louis, Belle, Martha and Christina were left stunned, their senses overwhelmed by the chaos. Their world had been irrevocably and violently altered in a matter of seconds. The moment of the explosion marked a clear, brutal line, the time before, filled with life and joy, and the time after, filled with fire, pain, and a desperate struggle for survival. The smell of burning memories hung heavy in the air, and the desperate scramble to escape had only just begun. The initial explosion was only the beginning of the nightmare. As the children struggled to comprehend what had just happened, dazed and injured amidst the rubble of their home, a new and even more terrifying enemy emerged. The fire. Fed by the flammable materials of the house and the remaining propane from the first tank, flames erupted everywhere, consuming what was left of the walls, floors, and furniture. Thick black smoke poured through the wreckage, making it impossible to see, and a suffocating heat filled the air. The path to any door or window, the familiar escape routes they knew so well, was now blocked by a solid wall of fire. The air itself became a poison. The burning of plastics, synthetic fabrics, and insulation released a toxic cocktail of chemicals into the smoke. Carbon monoxide, a silent killer, quickly reached deadly levels. For the children, every breath was now a painful struggle, searing their lungs and filling their bodies with poison. They were trapped in a maze of fire and smoke, their small bodies already weakened by the force of the blast. Their instinct would have been to run, to get out, but there was nowhere to go. Every direction they might have turned led to more flames, more heat, and more of the toxic gas that was stealing the very air they needed to breathe. Just as they might have been searching for a way out, a path through the inferno, the horror intensified. The heat from the raging fire reached the other propane tanks stored in the house. One by one, two more of the metal cylinders overheated, their internal pressure building to an unbearable level. This led to a second, and then a third, violent explosion. These subsequent blasts sent more fire and shrapnel tearing through the already destroyed structure, collapsing what little remained standing. For the children, these explosions were not just terrifying sounds, they were devastating physical blows that made any chance of escape utterly impossible. The home was no longer a place of shelter, it had become a fiery trap. The multiple explosions had created a chaotic and unstable environment, with the constant threat of falling debris and new bursts of flame. The children, caught in this inferno, were surrounded by danger on all sides. The toxic smoke, the intense heat, and the relentless explosions worked together to seal their fate within the burning shell of their house. Their desperate attempts to find safety were thwarted at every turn by the very structure that was supposed to protect them. They were fighting a battle against an enemy that was everywhere at once. In the air they breathed, in the flames that blocked their path, and in the crumbling walls around them. The sounds of the fire were deafening, a constant roar punctuated by the crackling of burning wood and the occasional explosion. The family huddled together, parents trying to shield their children from the relentless heat and smoke, their desperate cries for help drowned out by the inferno. Flames spread rapidly from room to room, consuming everything in their path, leaving no corner untouched by the devastation. In a final, desperate attempt to escape, the family tried to break windows and force open doors, but the fire's grip was too strong. The house, once a place of safety and comfort, was now a collapsing inferno, sealing their fate within its fiery grasp. The sound of the explosion shattered the quiet night, jolting neighbors awake and sending a wave of panic through the community. Within moments, frantic voices flooded the emergency dispatch center. "There's a fire! Please! There are children inside!" one caller pleaded, her voice trembling with fear. Fire trucks, ambulances, and police cars tore down the streets, their lights slicing through the darkness. Sirens wailed in a desperate chorus, echoing the urgency in every responder's heart. As they arrived, the responders were struck by the overwhelming devastation before them. Where a family home once stood, a raging inferno now roared, devouring everything in its path. Flames leapt high into the night sky, a pillar of black smoke, visible for miles, a beacon of tragedy. The first responders exchanged grim looks. This was no ordinary fire. This was a desperate race against time. Neighbors screamed, "The kids! The kids are still inside!" Their voices cracked with terror and helplessness. Every firefighter felt a surge of adrenaline and dread, their thoughts racing. "Please, let us get to them in time." The rescue team sprang into action, hearts pounding, each step fueled by hope and fear. "Stay close, watch your footing," a captain barked, his voice steady despite the chaos. Firefighters donned their heavy gear and breathing apparatuses, steeling themselves for what lay ahead. Each knew the risk. The house was collapsing, the fire unpredictable, but the thought of the children inside pushed them forward. They aimed powerful hoses at the flames, shouting over the roar, "Clear a path! We need to get in!" Every second felt like an eternity as they fought to beat back the fire, desperate to create a way inside. The heat was unbearable, searing their skin even from across the street. "Keep going!" someone yelled, voice hoarse. The threat of more explosions from propane tanks loomed over every move. Each step was a gamble with fate. Faces set with determination, the teams pressed on, their inner voices repeating, "We can't let them down." They weren't just fighting a fire, they were fighting for lives, for hope, for a miracle. "Move! Move! We don't have much time!" a rescuer shouted, urgency in every word. The scene resembled a war zone, smoke, debris, chaos. Yet, they searched, refusing to give up. Braving the choking smoke and searing flames, they pushed deeper, calling out, "Is anyone there? Can you hear me?" Each responder silently begged for a reply, for any sign of life amid the destruction. Their search was slow, methodical, every movement deliberate. "Careful, watch that beam," one whispered, voice tight with anxiety. They called out into the smoky darkness, moving debris piece by piece, praying for a sound, a cry, a cough. Visibility was near zero. "Stay with me," a firefighter muttered, more to himself than anyone else, clinging to hope. Training and sheer determination were all they had. "We have to find those kids," one rescuer thought, jaw clenched. Every step was a risk. Floors threatened to give way, walls creaked ominously. Still, they pressed on. Each firefighter and paramedic knew what they might find, but hope refused to die. "Just one sign," they pleaded silently. They exchanged worried glances, but no one spoke of giving up. Exhaustion gnawed at them, but they pushed through, driven by the thought of the children trapped inside. Time dragged on, each minute feeling like a lifetime. "Please, let us be in time," a rescuer whispered into the smoke. Then, a faint sound. "Over here," someone shouted. The search teams began to find them. One by one, the 5 children were found, huddled and barely conscious amidst the smoldering ruins. They were alive, just barely. Tears welled in the eyes of hardened rescuers as relief and heartbreak collided. "Hang on, sweetheart! We've got you!" a firefighter murmured, cradling a child gently from the wreckage. The children were rushed to waiting ambulances, every second critical. Emergency medical teams sprang into action, voices urgent. "We need oxygen here! Keep her awake!" The sight of the small, injured children being brought out of the fire broke even the toughest hearts. Some firefighters turned away, blinking back tears. Bystanders sobbed openly, the weight of the moment overwhelming. The rescue was a testament to the courage and compassion of the first responders, who risked everything for a chance at life. As the ambulances sped away, hope and fear mingled in every heart. Sirens screamed into the night, carrying the children toward uncertain futures. For the rescuers, the search was over, but for the children, the fight for survival had only just begun. The journey for Carla, Louis, Belle, Martha, and Christina was far from over. In many ways, the hardest part had just begun, but the struggle to save their lives had started long before they reached the hospital, at the very scene of the fire, where firefighters risked everything to pull them from the flames. Firefighters, braving the inferno and choking smoke, worked desperately to rescue the children, their faces etched with urgency and fear. Every second counted, and their heroic actions gave the children a fighting chance. The children had suffered extensive and severe injuries, and even some of the first responders needed medical attention after their courageous efforts. The explosions and the fire had caused devastating burns over large portions of their small bodies. Even more critically, the inhalation of superheated toxic gas had caused catastrophic damage to their lungs and respiratory systems. From the moment they arrived at the hospital, they were in a constant, minute-by-minute battle for their lives, and the medical teams threw every ounce of their knowledge and skill into that fight, while firefighters and first responders grappled with the emotional aftermath of what they had witnessed. For the next 7 months, the hospital became their world, They were placed in intensive care, surrounded by a maze of machines that breathed for them, monitored their vital signs, and delivered a steady stream of medication. The doctors and nurses worked tirelessly, performing countless procedures and surgeries in an attempt to heal their burns and support their failing organs. It was a grueling, painful process for the children, a roller coaster of small victories and devastating setbacks. The medical staff grew deeply attached to their young patients, fighting for them not just as doctors, but as caregivers who desperately wanted to see these children have a future. The days turned into weeks, and the weeks turned into months. The world outside moved on, but inside the sterile walls of the hospital, time stood still, measured only by the beep of heart monitors and the quiet hum of ventilators. The medical teams tried everything in their power. They used advanced skin grafting techniques, innovative treatments to combat infection, and sophisticated therapies to try and repair the damage to the children's lungs. They fought with a relentless determination, refusing to give up hope even when the odds seemed insurmountable. It was a monumental effort, a testament to the dedication of the medical profession, the bravery of the firefighters, and the strength of the human spirit. The emotional toll was immense. Nurses and doctors wept with families, and firefighters struggled with the memories of what they had seen and done. Despite the heroic efforts of everyone involved, the injuries the children had sustained were simply too severe. The damage to their internal organs, particularly their lungs, was irreversible. The toxic gases had scarred them so deeply that their bodies could no longer perform the basic function of breathing on their own. The burns were a constant source of pain and a gateway for infections that their weakened bodies struggled to fight off. The doctors did everything humanly and medically possible, pushing the boundaries of what medicine can achieve. But sometimes, even the most advanced science, the bravest rescue, and the most dedicated care are not enough to overcome such profound trauma. The loss was felt by everyone, the families, the medical teams, and the firefighters who had fought so hard to save them. After 213 days of unimaginable struggle, the fight came to a heartbreaking end. The hospital halls, once filled with hope and anxious whispers, now echoed with the heavy silence of loss. The children's bodies, which had fought so valiantly for so long, could not endure any more. Their favorite toys and blankets remained behind, silent witnesses to their courage. One by one, their small flames of life, which the medical teams had worked so desperately to protect, flickered and went out. Nurses and doctors who had come to know the children's laughter and fears wept quietly in the corners of the room. First one, then another, until all 5 were gone. The empty beds seemed to hold the shape of their dreams, now, forever out of reach. Carla, Louis, Belle, Martha, and Christina, the 5 bright sparks who had filled their home with so much joy, passed away. Each name carried a world of memories. Carla's gentle hugs, Louis's wild stories, Belle's quiet songs, Martha's infectious giggle, Christina's boundless curiosity. They were never able to return to a world of board games, music, or crayons. The games they left unfinished, the songs they never got to sing again, now lingered as bittersweet reminders. Their long and painful battle was over, leaving behind a silence that was even more deafening than the explosion that had started it all. The house, once alive with laughter and footsteps, now felt impossibly empty. The news of their death sent a wave of profound sadness through the community and beyond. Friends remembered birthday parties, neighbors recalled the children's smiles on summer evenings. The story of the 5 siblings had captured the hearts of many who had followed their fight and prayed for a miracle. Now, those prayers turned to words of comfort and shared memories. The loss was not just a private family tragedy. It was a collective heartbreak. Strangers wept for children they'd never met, feeling the weight of the goodbye as if it were their own. The first responders who had pulled them from the fire, the doctors and nurses who had cared for them for months, everyone who had touched their lives felt the loss personally. Many remembered the children's bravery, their small hands gripping tightly in moments of fear. It was a stark and painful reminder of how fragile life is, and how quickly everything can be taken away. The act of saying goodbye felt impossible. How do you let go of so much love? The hope that had been so fiercely held for 7 long months was replaced by a deep and abiding grief. The community mourned together, sharing stories of the children's kindness and laughter. Vigils were held, candles were lit, and prayers were offered for the 5 young souls. Each flame was a promise that they would not be forgotten. People left flowers and teddy bears at the site of the fire, a makeshift memorial on the empty plot of land where a home once stood. Some left notes recalling favorite memories, others simply stood in silence, overwhelmed by the loss. Each tribute was a small testament to the lives that had been lost, a symbol of the love that remained. The pain of goodbye was softened, if only slightly, by the outpouring of shared grief. The sadness was palpable in the quiet conversations of neighbors and the somber headlines in the local news. Stories of the children's kindness and laughter were whispered from porch to porch. The tragedy had left a permanent scar on the heart of the community, a wound that would take a long time to heal. For many, the hardest part was knowing there would be no more new memories, only the ones they already held close. The children were gone, but the memory of their bright spirits would not be forgotten. Their laughter still seemed to echo in the empty playgrounds and the drawings they left behind. In the end, it was a story, with no happy ending, no miraculous recovery. The hardest goodbyes are the ones that come too soon. It was a story of a terrible accident, and its devastating consequences. The ruins of the house stood as a stark reminder of all that was lost. After 213 days of fighting, after all the surgeries, the treatments, and the prayers, the 5 children died. Their hospital bracelets, now still, told the story of a battle bravely fought. The loss of Carla, Louis, Belle, Martha, and Christina was a profound tragedy. A loss of 5 futures, 5 sets of dreams, and a world of potential. Their classmates and teachers remembered their laughter, their questions, their friendships. Their story serves as a painful illustration of the immense grief that follows such a catastrophe, a solemn farewell to 5 beautiful children whose lives were cut short far too soon. In the end, all that remained were memories, treasured, painful, and irreplaceable, and the lesson that every goodbye carries a weight that never truly leaves us. The 2013 house fire remains one of the deadliest and most heartbreaking residential explosions in Oklahoma's history. Its impact continues to echo through the lives of those who survived, the family left behind, and the entire community. The loss of 5 children from a single family in one tragic event is a sorrow that is difficult to comprehend. Yet, in the face of unimaginable grief, the family found a resolve to honor their loved ones by turning their pain into purpose. The story is told not to sensationalize, but to remember, to warn, and to inspire change. The community came together, united in mourning, but also in determination to prevent such a tragedy from ever happening again. The sheer scale of the tragedy, born from such ordinary circumstances, serves as a powerful reminder of the hidden dangers that can exist within our own homes. Investigators and safety officials worked tirelessly to uncover the cause, determined to share their findings with the public. The memory of Carla, Louis, Belle, Martha, and Christina is forever tied to this devastating event. Their family, though broken by loss, became advocates for home safety, sharing their story to help others avoid similar heartbreak. This tragedy forces us to look at our homes differently, not just as places of comfort, but as environments that require our constant attention. The family, in their resolve, began to educate neighbors and friends about the importance of vigilance. It highlights the immense power stored in everyday items like propane tanks and the potential for disaster when they are not handled with the utmost care. The family partnered with local fire departments to host safety workshops, teaching others about the risks. The story teaches a critical lesson about the proper storage of flammable materials. Community members began to review their own homes, making changes to ensure safety. Flammable materials should always be kept in well-ventilated areas, far from any potential sources of ignition, and preferably outside of the main living space. Local ordinances were updated and awareness campaigns spread throughout the city. This simple precaution, this small act of diligence can be the difference between a normal day and a day of irreversible loss. The family's resolve inspired others to take action, making safety a daily priority. The incident also serves as a crucial reminder to be aware of the what-ifs. The community responded by organizing regular safety checks and sharing resources with those in need. We must ensure that our homes are equipped with working safety devices. The family, with the help of local organizations, distributed smoke detectors and carbon monoxide alarms to neighbors. Smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors are not just recommendations. They are essential life-saving tools that provide the early warning needed to escape a fire or a gas leak. The family's advocacy led to increased installation rates across the community. It is also vital to have a family escape plan and to practice it regularly, so that if the unthinkable happens, everyone in the household knows how to get out quickly and safely. Schools and community centers began holding regular fire drills, reinforcing these lessons for all ages. These are not chores to be put off. They are acts of love, ways of protecting the people we care about most from a fate like the one these 5 children met. The family's resolve became a beacon of hope and a catalyst for change. Ultimately, the story of the 2013 Oklahoma house fire is a call to action for every one of us. The community's response, through meetings, public service announcements, and support groups, demonstrated the power of collective resolve. We must honor the memory of Carla, Louis, Belle, Martha, and Christina, not just with our sorrow but with our actions. Annual vigils and remembrance events keep their legacy alive, reminding everyone of the lessons learned. We can do this by being more careful, more aware, and more prepared. The family's ongoing efforts to educate and support others have made a lasting difference. We can check our appliances, properly store dangerous materials, and install and maintain our safety detectors. The community now shares these practices as part of everyday life. By taking these simple steps, we can help ensure that such a heartbreaking tragedy never happens again. The family's resolve and the community's unity have created a safer environment for all. Their story is a powerful plea from the past, urging us to protect our families and to never take the safety of our homes for granted. Survivors and advocates continue to share their experiences, hoping to inspire vigilance in others. Let their legacy be a safer future for all, a future built on the lessons learned, the family's unwavering resolve, and the community's compassionate response. For 213 long days, the world outside moved on, but inside their rebuilt home, time seemed to stand still. After the fire, the 5 siblings, Carla, Louis, Belle, Martha, and Christina, returned to a house that looked the same, yet felt forever changed, as they struggled to heal from unimaginable wounds. From March 29th to October 28th, their family and caregivers filled the new rooms with hope, waiting for any sign of recovery. Every day was a mixture of prayers, whispered words, and the quiet hum of life returning to the rebuilt home. The siblings' bedrooms became sanctuaries of quiet courage, a place where love, fear, and hope collided beneath the familiar roof. Their parents and loved ones kept vigil at their bedsides, holding hands, recounting stories, and willing them to find strength in the home they once knew. Despite the best efforts of caregivers and the support of the community, the scars from the fire ran too deep. On October 29th at 6 a.m., the silent battle within the walls of their restored home came to an end. One by one, the 5 children slipped away, leaving behind a legacy of love and a community forever changed by their loss. Their story is not just one of tragedy, but of resilience, unity, and the enduring power of hope, even in the face of overwhelming sorrow. The memory of their fight reminds us that every life is precious, and every moment with those we love is a gift. As we remember Carla, Louis, Belle, Martha, and Christina, let us also remember the silent battles fought behind the doors of a rebuilt home, and the importance of cherishing every day. The fire left their original home in ruins, a stark reminder of the tragedy that unfolded. It took only 3 hours and $1 million to rebuild the house, restoring it to its former state, a testament to the community's resilience and support. The emotional aftermath was a silent struggle, with each family member grappling with their own grief and memories. Healing was a slow process, involving therapy sessions, group support, and the constant effort to find a new normal. Together, they planted a memorial garden, a living tribute to the siblings, symbolizing growth and the enduring power of love. On a cold November morning, the town gathered in quiet mourning for Carla, Louis, Belle, Martha, and Christina. The air was heavy with sorrow as people arrived, their breath visible in the chill, each step toward the church a testament to the love and loss felt by all. The church was filled with hundreds, family, friends, neighbors, and even strangers, each carrying the weight of the tragedy on their hearts. The pews overflowed, and some stood quietly at the back, hands folded, heads bowed. 5 small caskets, draped in white, stood at the front of the altar, surrounded by flowers, photographs, and handwritten notes from classmates and loved ones. The scent of lilies and roses mingled with the soft glow of candlelight, creating a sacred space for remembrance. The ceremony began with a moment of silence, broken only by the soft sobs of those left behind. The pastor's voice, gentle and steady, invited everyone to reflect on the lives lost and the love that remained. The siblings' parents, supported on either side, walked slowly down the aisle, hands clasped tightly together. Their steps were heavy, but the community's presence seemed to hold them up. Their faces, etched with grief and exhaustion, searched for comfort in the sea of mourners. Tears flowed freely, but so did gentle embraces and whispered words of support. As the pastor spoke, his words echoed through the sanctuary, reminding all of the light and laughter the siblings brought into the world. He spoke of their innocence, their dreams, and the way they touched everyone around them. Eulogies followed, each one painting a vivid picture of the children's lives. Carla's fearless curiosity, Louis's gentle kindness, Belle's infectious giggle, Martha's creativity, and Christina's boundless compassion were remembered through stories told by teachers, friends, and family. Laughter and tears mingled as memories were shared, and the congregation listened, united in grief and gratitude. Each memory painted a portrait of 5 lives, brief but deeply cherished. The altar was adorned with drawings, favorite toys, and cherished mementos, each item a testament to the children's unique spirits. Hymns were sung, voices trembling but strong, filling the church with a sense of hope and unity. The music offered solace, a reminder that even in darkness the community stood together. Outside, as the procession moved to the gravesite, the sky wept with a cold drizzle. The community formed a circle around the family. Umbrellas opened but spirits united, shielding one another from the rain and the weight of sorrow. One by one, loved ones placed white roses atop each casket, a final gesture of love and farewell. The soft thud of petals on wood echoed the heartbreak of goodbye. In that moment, the tragedy was felt by all, but so too was the strength of togetherness. The community's support was unwavering, arms linked and hearts open, determined to help the family heal. The siblings' legacy was not only in their loss, but in the community's resolve to support one another, to heal and to remember. Meals were delivered, funds were raised, and neighbors checked in daily, ensuring the family was never alone in their grief. As the final prayer was spoken, and the caskets were lowered into the earth, the promise was made. Their story would never be forgotten. The community's love would carry the family forward, one day at a time. The fire may have taken their home, but it could not extinguish the love that endures, nor the bonds that tragedy had only strengthened. In the weeks that followed the funeral, the town faced the daunting task of healing and rebuilding. The process was far from easy. Grief lingered in every corner, and the physical scars of the fire were matched by the emotional ones. The empty lot where the house once stood became a quiet memorial. Flowers and handwritten notes left by passers-by, a gentle reminder that the tragedy had touched everyone. For the family, returning to the site was both painful and necessary, a place to mourn and to remember. But in the face of loss, hope began to take root. Neighbors organized fundraisers, bake sales, and donation drives, determined to help the family rebuild their lives from the ground up. Community dinners became a source of comfort, where stories were shared and support was offered. The family leaned on friends and neighbors, finding strength in the unity that emerged from tragedy. Volunteers came together, hammer in hand, to help rebuild not just a home, but a sense of safety and unity. The construction was slow and sometimes overwhelming. Weather delays, limited resources, and the emotional weight of starting over made every step a challenge. Schools launched fire safety programs in memory of the siblings, teaching children about prevention, escape plans, and the importance of being prepared. The family took part in these efforts, sharing their story to help others avoid similar heartbreak. The importance of working smoke detectors became a rallying cry. The family made sure every room in their new home was protected and encouraged others to do the same. The local fire department partnered with residents, offering free home safety inspections and distributing fire extinguishers throughout the neighborhood. These efforts were a direct response to the tragedy, a promise that such a loss would not be repeated. Amid the sorrow, the community found renewed purpose. The rebuilding process was a testament to resilience, but it was also a daily reminder of those who were gone. The siblings' names became a call to action, reminders that even in the darkest moments change is possible. Annual memorial events were held and the family created scholarships and community projects in their honor. Their legacy lived on in every new fire alarm installed, every safety drill practiced, and every act of kindness inspired by their memory. The family made it a tradition to check in on neighbors, especially during fire season, turning remembrance into action and care. As the seasons changed, so too did the town. Each year brought new challenges, but also new ways to honor those lost. The rebuilt home stood as a symbol, not of what was lost, but of what could be protected. Inside, the family created a special room filled with photos, letters, and mementos, a space for quiet reflection and remembrance. The memories of Carla, Louis, Belle, Martha, and Christina inspired a lasting commitment to safety and compassion. The family gathered often to share stories, light candles, and keep their loved ones' spirits alive. Though scars remained, the community moved forward together, carrying the lessons of the past and the hope for a safer future. The family's resilience became a beacon for others facing hardship. The fire had left its mark, but it also sparked a legacy of vigilance, kindness, and remembrance that would endure for generations, woven into the very fabric of the family and the town they called home. The night sky glowed orange as flames devoured what once was a family home, casting an eerie light over the neighborhood. In the immediate aftermath of the 2013 Oklahoma house fire tragedy, chaos reigned. The air was thick with confusion, fear, and disbelief as neighbors tried to make sense of the devastation. Sirens pierced the air, growing louder as fire trucks and ambulances raced down the quiet street, their lights reflecting off wet pavement and smoke. Neighbors, roused from sleep by the commotion and the acrid scent of smoke, gathered in stunned clusters on their lawns, some in pajamas, others clutching blankets or cell phones with trembling hands. Many hugged each other, seeking comfort in shared shock. Emergency crews leapt into action, battling the inferno with hoses and axes, their faces illuminated by the flickering blaze. The teamwork and urgency were palpable as they fought to save what little remained. Medics rushed to aid the survivors, their voices calm but urgent, as they tended to burns and smoke inhalation. Some victims were quickly transported to local hospitals, while others received immediate care on the scene. The surviving family members, shaken, coughing, and wrapped in shock blankets, were comforted by first responders and neighbors alike. Volunteers handed out water and warm drinks, trying to ease the physical and emotional trauma. Tears streamed down faces, mingling with soot and disbelief. The emotional toll was immediate, with many struggling to process the loss and the terror of the night. As the fire was finally subdued, the reality set in. The physical exhaustion was matched only by the emotional weight that settled over everyone present. The once familiar home was reduced to smoldering ruins, a stark reminder of how quickly life can change. The air was thick with ash and sorrow, every breath a reminder of the tragedy. Some neighbors offered shelter, opening their homes to the displaced family and emergency workers. Others stood silently, hands over their mouths, struggling to process the tragedy that had unfolded so suddenly and so close to home. In those first few hours, the community's pain was raw, but so too was their resolve. Local churches and organizations quickly mobilized, setting up donation drives and offering counseling services for those affected. Strangers became supporters, and the seeds of compassion and action were quietly sown, even as the smoke still drifted through the dawn. In the days that followed, support systems grew, meals were delivered, temporary housing was arranged, and the community rallied to help the family begin the long journey of emotional and physical recovery. Dawn broke slowly over the charred remains, painting the neighborhood in pale gold and gray. The air was thick with the scent of smoke and damp ash, a haunting reminder of the night before. As the first rays of sunlight crept across the devastation, the world seemed to hold its breath. In those first hours after the flames had been tamed, the street was a crossroads of heartbreak and hope. Emergency vehicles lined the block, their lights still flashing in the morning haze, while neighbors and survivors gathered in small, uncertain groups. Firefighters, faces streaked with sweat and soot, scoured the ruins one final time, searching for any sign of life, for any possessions that might have survived. They moved methodically, lifting debris, calling out, and pausing to listen for any faint sound beneath the rubble. Their radios crackled with updates, each message heavy with the weight of loss. Orders were relayed, and teams coordinated their efforts to ensure every home was checked, every corner searched. At the barricade, family members arrived, some running, others stumbling, desperate for news. Their faces were etched with fear and exhaustion, clinging to hope as they waited for word of loved ones. Their cries pierced the morning stillness, raw and unfiltered, echoing across the lawns. Some collapsed into the arms of friends or strangers, overcome by grief and relief in equal measure. Neighbors reached out, hands on shoulders, offering what little comfort they could. In those moments, the boundaries between families blurred, and the community became a single grieving body. For some, the reality of the tragedy struck all at once. For others, it crept in slowly, disbelief etched on their faces. Survivors wandered the street in a daze, clutching what few belongings they had managed to save. Medics moved quietly among the survivors, checking vitals, offering oxygen, and wrapping shivering children in fresh blankets. They spoke in gentle tones, trying to soothe the shaken and the injured. The Red Cross set up a small station at the end of the block, handing out water and tissues, guiding the displaced through the first steps of an uncertain day. Volunteers offered words of reassurance, helping survivors begin to process the enormity of their loss. The community gathered in clusters, some praying, others simply staring at the smoldering wreckage. There was a sense of shared sorrow, but also a quiet determination to face what lay ahead. A few neighbors walked the street, collecting lost pets and comforting the smallest victims. Children clung to rescued animals, finding solace in their familiar warmth. The shock was palpable, a silent current running beneath every whispered word and every tearful embrace. Survivors leaned on each other, drawing strength from shared experience. As the sun climbed higher, the scope of the loss became clear. The devastation stretched as far as the eye could see, each ruined home a testament to the night's fury. But so too did the strength of the people left behind. Survivors began to help one another, clearing debris, sharing supplies, and offering words of encouragement. In those first hours, grief and compassion walked side by side, reminding everyone that even in devastation, the bonds of community could never be burned away. The actions taken in those moments, small, kind, and brave, became the first steps toward healing. In the days following the tragedy, the neighborhood that once bustled with everyday routines became a focal point for investigators, reporters, and volunteers alike. But beneath the surface, a sense of uncertainty lingered. Yellow tape fluttered in the breeze, marking the perimeter, where fire marshals pieced together the story of what happened. Yet, for every answer uncovered, new questions seemed to arise. Cameras clicked, and news vans lined the street, their antennas reaching skyward as journalists reported live from the scene, their voices hushed out of respect. The community watched, hoping for clarity, but the official cause remained elusive. Authorities sifted through debris, collecting evidence and interviewing witnesses, determined to find answers for the families left behind. The search for closure became a shared mission, but rumors and speculation filled the void left by the unknown. The cause of the fire became the question on everyone's lips, fueling anxiety and a desperate need for resolution as the community waited for official word. Support poured in from all corners. Local businesses organized fundraisers, schools held donation drives, and neighbors opened their doors to those displaced by the flames. The Red Cross, still stationed nearby, coordinated with city officials to provide temporary housing and counseling services. Volunteers arrived daily, offering hot meals, clothing, and a listening ear to anyone in need. Many of these helpers worked quietly, their names unknown, but their impact lasting. Amid the chaos, stories of quiet heroism emerged. Firefighters who went back into the blaze to save a family pet, neighbors who risked their own safety to alert others, and strangers who became friends overnight. Many of these unsung heroes faded into the background, their acts of courage and compassion unrecognized by the wider world. The tragedy had drawn a line through the community, but it had also woven a new fabric of solidarity. In the face of unanswered questions, people found strength in each other. As investigators continued their work and the media spotlight faded, the real work of healing began. The search for closure persisted, even as the world moved on. Grief counselors met with families, helping them process not just their loss, but the uncertainty that remained. Community leaders organized vigils and support groups, offering spaces for people to share their stories and seek comfort together. The road ahead was uncertain, but in these first days, hope grew from the ashes. Nurtured by the kindness of those determined to help their neighbors rebuild, and by the quiet, persistent efforts of unsung heroes searching for answers and healing, one day at a time. In the weeks after the fire, the town moved through a new rhythm shaped by loss and remembrance. The devastation was visible on every street, but so was the determination to heal. Memorials blossomed at the edge of the scorched lot, bouquets, handwritten notes, and candles flickering through the night, each one a silent conversation with those gone too soon. These tributes became places where people could gather, reflect, and find comfort in shared sorrow. Community gatherings became a lifeline, offering a space for neighbors to lean on one another and begin the slow process of recovery. Neighbors met in church halls and school gyms, sharing meals, hugs, and stories that soothed and stung in equal measure. Potlucks and shared dinners provided not just food, but a sense of normalcy and togetherness. At candlelight vigils, voices joined in song and silence, the glow of unity cutting through the lingering darkness. These moments of collective mourning helped the community find strength in one another. The emotional impact rippled outward, touching every family and friend. Survivors struggled with restless nights and sudden tears, haunted by memories and what-ifs. The path to healing was uneven, marked by setbacks and small victories. Counselors visited classrooms, helping children find words for their grief. Group therapy sessions offered a safe space for young and old alike to express pain and begin to process their trauma. Local businesses offered free services, meals, clothing, and counseling, while support groups met weekly, forging new bonds through shared heartache. Volunteers organized drives for supplies and donations, ensuring no one faced hardship alone. The fire's shadow lingered, but so did the warmth of compassion. Acts of kindness, both big and small, became the foundation for rebuilding lives. As the town honored its losses, it also learned to carry them, together. The journey toward recovery was not just about rebuilding homes, but about restoring hope and trust in one another. Each gathering, every shared memory, became a step toward healing. The community's resilience grew stronger with every act of support and remembrance. In the echo of sirens and the hush of remembrance, the community discovered that even in sorrow, hope could take root and grow. The healing process was ongoing, but together, they found the courage to move forward, one day, one memory, one act of kindness at a time. In the months that followed the devastating fire, the landscape of the town slowly began to change. The devastation was overwhelming, but the determination to rebuild was even stronger. Where charred remains once stood, construction crews arrived at dawn, their steady hands and determined faces a promise of renewal. Teams of volunteers joined the effort, clearing debris, salvaging what they could, and laying the groundwork for new beginnings. Each brick laid and each wall raised was more than just a physical act. It was a symbol of resilience, a testament to the community's refusal to be defined by tragedy. Local architects and builders worked side by side with families, designing safer, stronger homes built to withstand future disasters. Support for the victims and their families became woven into the fabric of everyday life. Neighbors checked in on each other daily, offering not just supplies but a listening ear and a shoulder to lean on. Fundraisers, benefit concerts, and silent auctions brought neighbors together, raising not just money, but spirits. The outpouring of generosity from surrounding towns and even strangers across the country fueled hope and reminded everyone they were not alone. Local businesses offered jobs to those who had lost everything. Restaurants provided free meals and volunteers organized clothing drives and supply collections. Community centers became hubs for distributing essentials and sharing information about rebuilding resources. The town's schools established scholarships in memory of the lost, ensuring their legacy would help shape brighter futures. Teachers and counselors worked tirelessly to support students, helping them process grief and look forward with hope. For many, healing was a slow and uneven journey. Families gathered each night, sharing stories and memories, finding comfort in one another as they navigated the difficult path forward. Some families struggled with the weight of loss, their grief flaring unexpectedly in the quiet moments. Yet, even in sorrow there was a quiet strength, a resolve to honor those lost by moving forward. Counselors remained a constant presence, guiding survivors through the difficult process of rebuilding not just homes, but lives. Mental health workshops and support groups became lifelines, helping people find hope in the midst of hardship. Support groups evolved into lasting friendships, their shared experiences a source of strength and understanding. Together, they celebrated small victories and leaned on each other during setbacks. As new houses rose and laughter began to return to playgrounds, the scars of the past remained, but so did the lessons learned. The community's resilience became a beacon, inspiring others to persevere. Fire safety programs were introduced in schools, and the local fire department offered free smoke detectors and home inspections, determined to prevent such a tragedy from happening again. Emergency drills and preparedness workshops became a regular part of community life. Step by step, the town began to find its footing. Families returned to their rebuilt homes, and the streets once again filled with the sounds of daily life. Each sunrise over the rebuilt neighborhood was a quiet victory, a reminder that even in the wake of unimaginable loss, hope could be rebuilt, and that together, a community could rise from the ashes. The future, though forever changed, was once again filled with possibility, thanks to the unwavering resilience and unity of those who called this town home. As the years passed since that fateful night in 2013, the echoes of the house fire continued to shape the very heart and soul of the community. The tragedy was not just a moment in time, it became a catalyst for profound, lasting change. What began as a devastating loss became a turning point, one that forever altered how the town understood safety, compassion, and the power of collective action. The community learned that true strength emerges not in isolation, but in unity. Fire safety, once a distant afterthought, became a cornerstone of daily life. Families made it a habit to check smoke alarms, practice escape plans, and talk openly about preparedness. New building codes mandated advanced smoke alarms, fire-resistant materials, and clear emergency exits in every home. Builders and homeowners alike embraced these changes, determined to prevent such a tragedy from ever happening again. Annual safety drills became a cherished community tradition, with children leading the charge, reminders that even the youngest voices can spark lasting change. Schools wove fire safety into their curriculum, ensuring every generation would be better prepared. The fire department's outreach grew, their lessons reaching neighboring towns and inspiring statewide reforms. Firefighters became mentors, educators, and trusted friends, guiding the community toward a safer future. The legacy of those lost endured, not only in memorials and scholarships, but in the choices people made every day. Their memory inspired acts of kindness, vigilance, and a renewed commitment to one another. Streets were renamed in their honor, and a quiet park, filled with flowering trees and benches, became a place for reflection, healing, and remembrance. The community gathered there to remember, to mourn, and to celebrate resilience. On the anniversary each year, candles were lit and stories shared, ensuring that their memory continued to guide and protect the living. These gatherings became a source of comfort and a reminder of the enduring bonds forged through hardship. For many, the tragedy instilled a deeper sense of unity. Neighbors who once passed each other in silence now worked side by side, building a stronger, more connected town. Neighbors, once strangers, became lifelong friends. Community events flourished, and a spirit of mutual support became the new normal. Young people who grew up in the shadow of loss found purpose in helping others, some joining emergency services, others becoming advocates for safety and preparedness. Their dedication ensured the lessons of the past would never be forgotten. The fire's aftermath taught the community that healing is not about forgetting, but about growing stronger together. Support groups, outreach programs, and shared experiences helped everyone move forward. In the rebuilt homes, and in the hearts of all who remember, the lessons of that night live on, a testament to resilience, remembrance, and hope for generations yet to come. The tragedy's legacy is not just in what was lost, but in all that was gained, a safer, kinder, and more united community, forever transformed.